Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is now just 8 days away from its official release by writer and director J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio, as well as creator George Lucas. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, as we get closer to the release of this movie, we're also getting closer to the official premiere over here in the States, over in Los Angeles on the 16th, which is where we will be getting a bunch of different reactions based from many of the different critics that get the chance to go ahead and see the movie at the premiere. Now, keep in mind, and I just want you guys to really realize that some of those reactions probably won't be trustworthy or honest, because a lot of them were not for The Last Jedi, and just keep an eye open for some of which that may sound a little too much to the point where they're really kind of like overreacting about the movie in a positive sense, because that's what we've seen exactly with The Last Jedi, so to speak. So, on top of all of this, what's really intriguing about Episode 9 has all to do with the massive changes that Disney and Lucasfilm applied to this movie that is very unfortunate for some of the storytelling of Episode 9 and what could have been in the final cut based on the initial cut of Episode 9. Now, with that being said, it's explained that through many of the changes and adjustments by Disney and Lucasfilm during the months of August, September, and October, it's explained that one of the big plans by Kathleen Kennedy was to restructure the entire plot of the film, where it's explained that many of these changes were mainly done to the second and third acts of the movie. It's explained that this was mainly done by Kathleen Kennedy, where many scenes were sacrificed by Disney in order to focus more on the newer characters, and even many of the other plot points in the film. It said that one of the major decisions by Kathleen Kennedy was by deleting the Obi-Wan Kenobi Force Ghost sequence, as well as Anakin's portrayal by both Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen, where it said that deleting these characters were to focus more on the characters of Jannah and Zori Bliss in the second act of the film, and to also give Poe, Rey, and Finn the limelight they deserve. Also, it's explained that many of the Jedi and Sith lore sequences that were a part of the initial cut of the movie have been deleted from the final cut of the film. That is actually said to be, this too has also been greatly reduced by Disney and Lucasfilm in order to focus less on that in the film and to explain all this further in the art book of The Rise of Skywalker and in the official novelization. It said that these decisions were also all done by Kathleen Kennedy to make the film less confusing to the common moviegoer and to shift the film away from Star Wars fans who know the lore. Also, it's noted that one of the other major decisions that was actually made by Disney and Lucasfilm was by deleting more than half of both Palpatine and Luke Skywalker scenes in the movie, and to make Rey the Chosen One in the film, and that this was an attempt made by Disney to reset the entire franchise of the past eight episodes that come before this one. So let's go over a couple of parts about this and as to why this is once again terrible decisions made by Lucasfilm and Disney. Now, when we look at Episode 9 here, it is a very important film to them. Obviously, financially, because this is going to be a very big movie. It's the very end of the Skywalker saga. It's the end of Star Wars by Disney before they move on to their new Star Wars trilogy and whatever they plan to do with that. But with that being said, what's really unfortunate has all to do with sacrificing the characters of Anakin and Kenobi's Force Ghost appearances in the movie in order to focus more on the new characters like Rose, Zori Bliss, and Jannah. Now, that is beyond me. I don't understand. I don't know where that logic really comes from. I don't really know if there's really even a big fan base for those characters, really, over Anakin and Kenobi, of all people. I really don't understand Disney's logic when it comes to Star Wars, and I think that this once again just proves that Disney and Lucasfilm truly do not understand the Star Wars franchise at all in any way, shape, or form. It seems like that they just really look at it as a common movie or a common blockbuster film that they have to produce and put out to the movies and slap the Star Wars label right on top of it. That's how at least I feel about this scenario. And when we look at everything related to The Rise of Skywalker here, is that when we go through everything related to the film, this movie really is going to be very important, not just to them, but also to the Star Wars community, and based on all of the different changes and the adjustments for the second and third acts of Episode 9, things really are not looking too bright by Disney and Lucasfilm, and what they really have done, with Episode 9, it really seems like it's not going to be, the best of the sequel trilogy even. It seems like it might only be a little bit better than that of The Last Jedi. I mean, some of the leaks that we have gone over and some of the actual spoilers that we have talked about sound worse than The Last Jedi at points in time, just as we went over in the last video or two about the space horses, kicking the stormtroopers. It just sounds ridiculous to me, but moving on. The other thing that I do want to focus on here that I think is really ridiculous as well is how the Jedi and Sith lore has also been greatly reduced in the film, and they're transferring that all over into the film's novelization and into the art book of The Rise of Skywalker, and is the main reason as to why the art book was delayed until spring of next year, and why the novel is not releasing until March. So this is beyond me as well. It's like, I'm starting to wonder exactly what runs through Disney's mind of not delivering what the fans really want at the end of the day. At the end of the day, we want everything we need to know about the Jedi, the Sith, and the lore that surrounds all of that. We want more Palpatine and Luke, that's a given. The fact that they deleted more than half of both Luke and Palpatine scenes in this movie, and that led to us only having 10 minutes of Luke in Episode 9, and 12 minutes of Palpatine in Episode 9, I think is literally insane. I think it really is insane. Because when we look at a Star Wars film, this is the final movie of the Skywalker saga. This was their only chance, their only way of bringing back Anakin into fruition, and they failed. They tried and they failed. And they're not even going to have, Anakin Skywalker's Force Ghost interacting with any of the characters, which would have been beautiful, as they initially planned before they wanted to make this film cater to the general audience. It's just beyond me. It really is. I think that they know what the fans want, but they're just not delivering. And that's just how I see it. So, how they cut the screen time of Luke and Palpatine, once again, this is another big example of why, The Rise of Skywalker, I believe, is not going to really make a lot of fans happy. A lot of fans are going into this because of the title being called The Rise of Skywalker, and because they want to see how it ends, and also everything related to Luke and Palpatine. There's no doubt about that. I believe that that is the majority of the main reasons as to why people want to see this. It's the very end of the movie, or the Skywalker saga, I should say. They're interested in Palpatine and Luke's roles, and it's the title. It's all about the title, right? So the title of this movie called The Rise of Skywalker, and how Rey is really the one who becomes a Skywalker, I think is going to really, stab fans in the back, without a doubt. But at the same exact time, when we look at how Rey becomes the chosen one, that's again betraying the fans, because even George Lucas, the man who created Star Wars, said that there is no other chosen one. Anakin is and will always be the chosen one. Nobody else, no ifs, ands, or buts. And I guess all of that changed when George Lucas sold Lucasfilm over to Disney and hired Kathleen Kennedy as the president of Lucasfilm to take over. You can see exactly how many things have changed by Disney and Lucasfilm, without a doubt. So, the last thing I just want to touch on here real quick is, of course, my feelings on all of this. Now, I will say that I went over my feelings about Star Wars and The Last Jedi just yesterday, which were all honest and true. As of right now, The Last Jedi really isn't looking all that bright based on all of the different changes in how this movie, by the way, is primarily going to be focused on the Resistance. And I will be honest here, the Resistance seems far weaker than how the fans actually looked at the Rebellion in the original trilogy. There's something about the Resistance that isn't as interesting in the sequel trilogy than how the Rebellion was actually used and utilized in, the original trilogy. That's how I see things. So the fact that this movie is primarily based on the Resistance and focusing on, that side of the story, I think is really going to quite be boring at times, to be really honest and bold here. So anyways, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
From night to moon we hear them moans again.